This is your turning point. There comes a time in life when everything you've known, everything you've done, and everything you've accepted as just the way it is no longer feels like enough. And it's not because something out there has changed, but because you have, deep within your spirit, something has awakened. It may not be loud yet. It may feel like a quiet nudge, a whisper, a sense of restlessness, but it's real, and it's trying to tell you something. This is your turning point. It doesn't always arrive with fanfare or fireworks. In fact, most of the time, it comes in silence. It shows up when you're sitting alone, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the life you're living is truly the one you're meant for. It creeps in during those moments when the mask you've been wearing begins to feel too heavy, when you laugh in a room full of people, but the sound doesn't feel like it belongs to you anymore, when success, as others define it, no longer satisfies your soul. That's how you know you're not lost. You're simply standing at the edge of transformation. See, a turning point is not something that comes from the outside. It doesn't wait for the job offer, the relationship, the weight loss, the miracle. It begins the moment you say to yourself, no more. No more shrinking, no more hiding, no more settling for crumbs when your soul is starving for more. It is a decision to stop outsourcing your worth to people, situations, or achievements, and instead to turn inward and begin the work of becoming who you really are, not who you were taught to be, not who others expect you to be, but who you know deep down you were born to become. And yes, that decision takes courage, because there is safety in familiarity, even when that familiarity is painful. You may be sitting in a life that feels like a cage, but at least you've memorized its corners, at least you know its boundaries. So, when the time comes to step beyond that, your fear will try to stop you. It will whisper, what if you fail? What if they laugh? What if you're not ready? But here's what I know, you are ready, not because everything is perfect, not because you have all the answers, but because the moment you begin to question what you've accepted as enough, you've already outgrown it. You see, people often wait for signs. They wait for everything to be lined up, for doors to swing open, for someone to give them a green light. But real change doesn't come from signs. It comes from truth, and truth lives in your gut. Truth is that tightening in your chest when you say yes to things you don't want. Truth is that exhaustion in your bones when you're pretending to be someone you're not. Truth is that spark behind your eyes that lights up when you're doing something that feels like home. When you feel that, you don't need a sign, you are the sign. Now, choosing yourself doesn't mean walking away from everything. It doesn't mean burning your life down, starting over. Sometimes it means the quiet work of reclaiming your voice, of saying yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no, of showing up for yourself the way you've shown up for everyone else. It means no longer waiting to be chosen, validated, or rescued. You stop performing. You start living, and in doing so, you begin to rewrite the narrative you've been told your whole life, that your worth depends on what you produce, what you achieve, what others think of you. That's not true. You are enough now. You are worthy now. And the moment you begin to act like it, everything changes. But know this, turning points are not always easy. They come with grief. Grief for the version of you that did their best with what they had. Grief for the relationships that might not survive your growth. Grief for the comfort of not knowing. Because when you know better, you can't pretend anymore, and that knowing will cost you. But it will also free you from the boxes you were never meant to fit into, free you from the expectations that were never yours to carry, free you to take up space, to use your voice, to tell your story, and to live your truth. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the first step, one breath, one choice, one small act of self-honor. That's how it begins. And then, brick by brick, you build a life that feels like you, not perfect, but true, and there is nothing more powerful than a person living their truth. So if you're waiting for the right time, this is it. If you're looking for a sign, this is it. If you're wondering whether you're strong enough, brave enough, worthy enough, the answer is yes, not because I say so, but because you feel it. Deep down, you know, you're not who you were last year, last month, or even last week. You're growing, you're shifting, you're rising. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one you get to write with your own hands. So turn the page, step forward, trust yourself. This is your turning point. The beautiful and often difficult truth about turning points is that they are rarely visible to anyone else. People around you might not notice that something profound is happening inside you. They might see you going through the motions, smiling at the right times, doing what you've always done, but they don't hear the conversations you're having with yourself in the quiet moments. They don't see the way your heart clenches when you compromise. Again, they don't feel the ache of knowing there's more for you, and yet you haven't yet taken the leap. This inner battle, this sacred space of becoming, is where the true shift begins. It's not in the doing, it's in the deciding. There is a moment, and maybe you're in it now, when you realize you've been trying to live up to a version of yourself that was never really yours. A version built out of expectations, survival, approval, and fear. You played the role. You kept the peace. You worked hard, sacrificed, smiled, succeeded. But now it's no longer enough to perform, because performance is exhausting when it's not aligned with purpose. And that fatigue you're feeling, that's not weakness. That's your soul asking for something real, something deeper, something true. The turning point happens the moment you decide that you cannot continue to betray yourself in small ways anymore. It's not always about grand gestures. It's not about quitting your job or ending your relationship or changing your whole life overnight. Sometimes it begins with a whisper inside that says, "I'm not okay pretending anymore." Sometimes it's a breath. Sometimes it's a tear. But it's always a choice. The choice to finally listen to your own voice above the noise of the world. The choice to believe, even in the smallest way, that you deserve to live fully, freely, and authentically. And that decision, that one private, internal decision, begins to unlock everything. You might feel afraid, that's natural. Every version of you that was trained to people, please, to hustle for worthiness, to stay small so others could feel big. Every one of those versions will resist. They will try to keep you safe in the old patterns. But safety is not the same as peace. And once you've tasted the idea of freedom, you won't be able to unknow it. The cage will feel smaller. The days will feel heavier. And that ache in your chest will keep coming back until you choose to answer it. There's a reason you feel what you feel. There's a reason your spirit won't let this go. You're not being ungrateful for wanting more. You're not being selfish for choosing yourself. You're not being dramatic for saying, "This isn't working for me anymore." You are simply waking up. You are simply rising into a deeper awareness of who you are and what you're meant to be. And that awakening can be tender. It can come with guilt, with confusion, with loneliness, because the road back to yourself is not always lined with applause. Sometimes it's lined with silence. Sometimes it's lined with people who don't understand, but keep going anyway, because that moment when you decide, when you really decide, that you will no longer abandon yourself for the comfort of others, that is the moment your life begins to change. No one else needs to get it. No one else needs to co-sign your decision. No one else needs to cheer you on. That would be lovely, yes, but this is between you and the truth, your truth, and once you commit to it, the shift becomes unstoppable. You may take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You may have days when you doubt yourself completely, but you will never go back to sleep, not fully, because once you've seen your own light, you can't unsee it. So take that first step. Speak that small truth. Honor that quiet voice. the one that says, I want more. I am more. I was made for more, even if you don't know what more looks like yet. Even if you don't know where the road leads, you don't have to. All you need to know is that you are worthy of the journey, worthy of the risk, worthy of choosing you. That's where the real turning point begins, not outside, but inside. The moment you decide, not just with your mind, but with your soul, that your own joy matters, that your truth matters, that your life belongs to you, not to expectations, not to fear, not to the past. And once you make that choice, the universe has a way of meeting you there. Doors begin to open, people begin to show up, circumstances begin to shift, but none of it happens until you do. So go on, choose yourself, not in ego, not in defiance, but in love, in quiet, powerful love for the person you're becoming. Because this is your turning point, and the decision is already inside you. There's something sacred about the moment you finally choose to stop performing, not in a dramatic way, not by walking away from your whole life or turning your back on your responsibilities. No, I mean when you quietly, gently, yet powerfully say, I'm not doing this to prove anything anymore. That is a moment of awakening, and that awakening is another turning point. So much of our lives are spent trying to meet some invisible standard. We hustle, we strive, we bend ourselves into shapes that aren't natural to us, just so we can be accepted, validated, praised. We say yes when we want to say no. We work overtime to be liked, approved of, seen. We stay in relationships, jobs, and environments that no longer feel right because we've convinced ourselves that our value is tied to being chosen by others. And over time, that pretending begins to wear down the soul. You might not notice it all at once. It starts slowly. Maybe you stop laughing the way you used to. Maybe your shoulders feel heavy for no reason. Maybe you lie in bed at night, scrolling through your phone, feeling disconnected even though you're surrounded by people. That's not weakness. That's not depression. That's your spirit trying to get your attention. That's your truth trying to break through the surface, because you weren't born to perform. You were born to be, to live fully, love deeply, speak clearly, and exist freely. And when you begin to feel the pain of pretending, that's when the shift begins. That's the beginning of the end of your old self and the quiet, beautiful emergence of your real self. There is a moment when you get tired, not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, but tired of being what you think the world wants you to be. And that moment is not something to fear, it's something to celebrate, because it means you are done betraying yourself. It means the version of you that's been surviving is making room for the version that's ready to live. You don't need to shout it from the rooftops. This isn't about rebellion. This is about realignment, coming back home to your own voice, that voice you silenced because someone told you it was too much, that laughter you toned down because someone said it was too loud, that dream you buried because someone said it was too unrealistic. All of it is still in you, and it's waiting for your permission to rise. Let go of the lie that says you have to prove yourself. Let go of the need to earn love through perfection. Let go of the belief that you are only worthy if others approve. Because here's the truth no one tells you. The people who truly see you, love you, and value you, they don't need the performance. They don't need you to be polished, put together, or impressive. They need you to be real, honest, human, and being real is vulnerable, yes, but it is also magnetic. When you drop the performance, something shifts in your energy. You stop chasing people who don't see you. You stop shrinking yourself for the comfort of others. You begin to attract people who meet you at your level of truth, not your level of effort. You start speaking with clarity. You start living with intention. And even though it might feel shaky at first, it gets easier. It gets lighter, because it's no longer a role you're playing. It's you. Now, that doesn't mean the old voices will disappear overnight. You might still hear them from time to time, the voices of shame, comparison, fear, but they lose their power when you stop feeding them. And every time you choose to be yourself, even in small ways, You build a foundation of trust within your soul. That trust becomes your compass, and the more you listen to it, the more you'll realize that freedom isn't something you chase. It's something you reclaim. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be whole, and wholeness includes your mistakes, your doubts, your softness, your scars. All of it belongs. All of it is sacred. You don't have to clean yourself up emotionally just to be worthy of love, peace, or opportunity. You are worthy already, worthy in your mess, worthy in your healing, worthy in your becoming. So take off the mask, lay down the armor, let people see you, not the filtered, polished, performative version, but the real you, even if your voice trembles, even if your hands shake, even if you're still figuring it out. That version of you, that's the one the world needs, and more importantly, that's the one you need, because there is nothing lonelier than being loved for a version of yourself that isn't real. But there is nothing more liberating than being loved, honored, and respected exactly as you are. This is your turning point, the moment you decide that being yourself is more important than being impressive, that your peace matters more than perfection, that your authenticity is your superpower. So stop performing, start living. Your truth is more than enough. You are more than enough, and you don't need to prove that to anyone. Not anymore. Growth is not a straight line. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It's full of twists and turns that you didn't see coming, and if you're honest, it's often scary, because to truly turn your life around, to step into the fullness of who you are meant to be, you have to walk through the unknown. You have to walk through the discomfort of change. It's easy to want to skip the hard parts, isn't it? To wish for a magic moment when everything just falls into place. But life doesn't work like that. Transformation is rarely gentle. It shakes you to your core. It challenges your beliefs, your habits, your relationships. It asks you to question everything you thought you knew, and that can feel like losing yourself. But here's the paradox. Sometimes you have to lose who you thought you were to find who you really are. The space between who you've been and who you're becoming is often the hardest place to be. It's filled with doubts, fears, and uncertainty. You might question your choices. You might want to turn back to the comfort of the familiar, even if that familiar isn't good for you. That's normal. That's human. But if you want to step into your true power, you have to stay in that space long enough to grow through it. Change asks for patience. It asks for kindness to yourself when the progress feels slow or invisible. Because sometimes the biggest breakthroughs happen not in the moments of sudden clarity, but in the quiet persistence of showing up for yourself every day. It's in those small acts, choosing love over fear, choosing courage over comfort, that the real transformation happens. Remember, the process is as important as the destination. Don't rush through the discomfort just to get to the good part. The discomfort is where your character is built. It's where resilience grows. It's where you learn to trust yourself, your strength, your wisdom, your ability to handle whatever comes your way. And trust is everything. Trust that even when you can't see the way forward, the path is unfolding beneath your feet. Trust that every challenge is preparing you for the person you are becoming. Trust that you are not alone, even when it feels like you are walking this road by yourself. The universe is always moving with you, even if you can't feel it yet. This turning point you're at, it's not just about changing what's around you. It's about changing the way you relate to yourself. It's about learning to be gentle with your mistakes, patient with your fears, and loving through your doubts. Because the new you isn't someone who never struggles. It's someone who keeps going despite the struggle. So embrace the uncertainty. Lean into the discomfort. Let it teach you, shape you, and strengthen you. When you do, you will come out on the other side. Not just different, but transformed. Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just existing, but fully alive. This is your turning point. The moment you decide to walk boldly into the unknown with faith in your heart and fire in your soul, and that, above all, will carry you forward, there is a profound power in commitment, not the kind of commitment that feels heavy or like a burden, but the deep, unshakable promise you make to yourself, the kind of promise that roots you when the winds of doubt and fear try to pull you away. This commitment is the final and most vital step in your turning point, because everything begins to change the moment you truly commit, not just with your words, but with your whole being. You see, it's one thing to want change, to hope for better days, to dream of a new life, but it's quite another to show up for that change every single day, no matter what. Commitment is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's what transforms intention into reality, and it's what keeps you going when motivation wanes and the path looks difficult. Making this commitment means telling yourself, I am worth the effort. I am worth the discomfort. I am worth the time it takes to grow. It means looking in the mirror and saying, I am here for myself through the highs and the lows. This isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily, moment-by-moment choice to keep believing in your own potential, even when it's easier to give up. And when you commit to yourself in this way, something incredible happens. Your energy shifts. You begin to move with purpose rather than reaction. You start to notice opportunities you might have missed before, and you begin attracting the people and resources that align with your new direction. The universe has a way of honoring the energy of commitment, of responding to the steadfastness of your spirit. But commitment also means patience with the process. It means forgiving yourself when you stumble and remembering that progress isn't always linear. Sometimes you'll take steps forward and then step back. That's okay. What matters is that you keep choosing to rise, to try again, to stay connected to your truth. This commitment is a gift to your future self, the person you're becoming. It's an act of love, respect, and courage, because the greatest relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. And when that relationship is strong, steady, and rooted in commitment, everything else in your life begins to fall into place. So as you stand at this turning point, know that the power lies in your hands. The power lies in your willingness to commit, not to perfection, but to progress, not to certainty, but to courage, not to an easy path, but to a meaningful one. This is your moment to say, I am all in, I am here, I am ready. And with that, you step fully into your power, your purpose, and your peace. Because this is your turning point, and commitment is the key that will unlock the life you were always meant to live.